After 5 long years, the current FBI leadership has arrested the January 6th pipe bomb suspect, a 30-year-old man from Northern Virginia, Woodbridge, Virginia, to be exact. He lives at home with his mom. Are we shocked? I'm not shocked. There are always these weird loser incels, but lives at home with his mom at 30 years old. No criminal history aside for some traffic violations, but these pipe bombs were placed near the offices of the DNC and RNC on the night of January 5th, 2021, ahead of January 6th, CNN's favorite day of the year. They talk about it all the time. And thankfully, those bombs never went off, as we know, but in these last 5 years, we haven't really found out much of anything. We didn't know who was behind it, motive. And what's interesting is that the FBI was able to nab this suspect with no new information. They located this guy by using evidence they already had. No new tips. They got him using cell phone data, things that he purchased, items to make this pipe bomb, piping, wires, whatever else. They brought in a special team of investigators, and they took all of the information that they already had and were able to catch him. Attorney General Pam Bondi said earlier today in a press conference that the evidence had been sitting there collecting dust. And here is what FBI Director Kash Patel put on X earlier today. When Dan Bongino and I came into the FBI in March, the pipe bomb investigation had been stalled for going on 5 years. We rebuilt it from scratch, rerunning every lead, retesting every piece of evidence, bringing in top experts, and deploying new technology to engineer the break that finally nailed the suspect. Today is the result of that outstanding work. We didn't need new evidence, just new leaders, and a new president, Donald J. Trump, willing to let good cops be cops. I'm extremely grateful to Dan Bongino, the leadership team, Pam Bondi, U.S. Attorney Judge Jeanine Pirro, and every partner who helped deliver this win. This is a focused, rebuilt FBI delivering results for the American people. And now he's been charged with the use of an explosive device, and there could be more charges coming, Attorney General Bondi said earlier today. These things don't happen overnight, right? I usually let the people in charge do their jobs, right? Let them cook. But the Biden DOJ sat on this, clearly. This was a leadership issue because the DOJ under the Trump administration came in, restarted this, and did their jobs. And Democrats were so obsessed with just getting Trump as it pertained to January 6th, nothing else really mattered to them, I guess. It's crazy. I always say that real life is not a CSI episode. It's not an NCIS episode. It's not, Law and Order, where it's just solved in 20 minutes. I like to give people grace. But it really does seem like having new leadership at the FBI has changed everything. So I'm looking forward to finding out more details about this guy, what the motive was, and more details as they come out. But great win for all of America today. The Democrats, their priorities are really out of whack. We've been talking about this Somali fraud scheme in Minnesota where immigrant groups stole $1 billion in taxpayer dollars that were supposed to go to feed children during the COVID-19 pandemic. And of course, sitting Congresswoman in Minnesota, Ilhan Omar, she's defending this group of criminals. Listen to this.
First of all, federal prosecutors say 59 people have been investigated in these schemes so far. Americans at large stole tens of billions of forms of aid during the pandemic all over the country. Minnesota's fraud scandal stands out, according to federal auditors. What are you hearing from investigators right now?
Well, I've been following the cases closely as they've gone through the courts, and we know that there are more indictments possibly coming. I think that number might go up to 73 is what I'm hearing.
Okay. Can you shed any light on why the fraud got so out of control in Minnesota?
I think what happened is that, when you have these kind of new programs that are designed to help people, you're oftentimes relying on third parties to be able to facilitate. And I just think that a lot of the COVID programs that were set up, they were set up so quickly that a lot of the guardrails did not get created.
Now, obviously, whatever the ethnic group, the actions of a few dozen should not impugn an entire community of thousands of people.
Isn't that interesting? You know, these COVID programs, they were just whipped up overnight, and you know, fraud happens. Her stance is essentially shit happens. Sorry. Don't blame the people that committed the fraud. Blame how fast everything was put up. There were no guardrails during COVID-19. Then, of course, CNN interviews a Somali immigrant, and he says that the way that the government is going after them, it is like Nazi Germany. Listen to this.
Growth in this state, they have contributed a lot to the state of Minnesota and the city of Minneapolis. And yes, folks have done, horrible things, and people have committed crimes, but we should not be pointing the entire community in one brush and being singled out as fellow Americans. There's a justice, there's a process of due process, and I believe those folks have been dealt with by the state leaders. And but now President Donald Trump singling out and attacking one group of people, and ICE being on our streets and asking people documentation. It feels like we are in 1930s, 1940s in Germany. Never thought there would be a time where I will tell my community to carry their passport around because you look like Somali.
Oh my goodness.
You might be stopped by ICE.
Don't we all have to carry around identification? I do. I'm an American citizen. I carry around identification all the time. And it proves that I'm a resident of the state of Florida. This is not racist. This is just the way things are. And authorities are not going after these criminals because they're Somalian or because of who they are or where they're from. They're being targeted because they stole $1 billion. They were committing fraud. That's a crime. And thankfully, we have actors and celebrities weigh in on things like this, these matters like this. And Ben Stiller posted this on X saying, Somalis are not garbage. Immigrants and refugees from anywhere are people like you and me. They should not be demonized. This country is built on the backs of people who have come from other places. It's what our country is all about. Again, just totally missing the point. No one is calling Somalis garbage, you know, in general. They're talking about, this is all stemming from comments that President Trump made during the televised cabinet meeting earlier this week, where, you know, he was calling immigrants, you know, these Somali immigrants that were involved in this fraud, garbage. That was the context. These are criminals. He's calling garbage and saying that they should go back to where they came from because you shouldn't be able to live here, come here, live here, and then defraud American citizens and taxpayers. Again, no outrage, by the way, when President Biden called American citizens garbage, but when criminals steal, that's not okay. That's where Democrats call the line. You can't call criminals garbage who rip off the American people. Give me a break. But we're seeing more dangerous rhetoric from the left. Senator Mark Warner, he wants a coup, essentially. Listen to this.
Unprecedented disrespect when they were all brought to get a pep rally in front of Hegseth and Trump. This is an administration that's fired, you know, uniform generals from the head of the NSA, the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency. Mm-hmm. And I think in many ways, the uniform military may help save us from this president and his lame people like Hegseth, because I think their commitment is to the Constitution and obviously not to Trump. And I expect Bradley to adhere to that.
So, Senator, let's go a little further on this. What are concerns you have about the legality of these strikes at all?
I love how this MS Now host, formerly MSNBC, doesn't push back on that comment at all. A sitting senator just said, I hope that, you know, uniformed military members save us from President Trump. What does that actually mean? I would love it if members of the mainstream media would have the balls to ask, hey, Senator, what do you mean by that? Make him explain it. Make him say it out loud. Make him say, I want the United States military to take out Trump or remove him from office or defy his orders or whatever. I am starting to think that Democrats want a civil war. They've tried everything else to get Trump. Nothing has worked. They've tried to whip up their own proof in quotation marks, of Trump wrongdoing, whether it's Russia collusion, peeing on a stripper, inciting January 6th riot, rape, pedophilia, whatever. They've impeached him twice. They've tried to kill him multiple times. Didn't work. Now Democrats and former military members, the Seditious Six, have openly called for military members and law enforcement to defy the orders of the commander-in-chief, claiming that what President Trump is doing by enforcing the law is illegal. Illegal orders. Democrats' idea of illegal is holding illegal aliens accountable for their criminal actions, by the way. But what's next for these Democrats? How else can they get Trump, right? All the scandals that I just listed, the Epstein files didn't work. We saw the civil unrest the Democrats whipped up during 2020. I would not put it past them to ramp it up. And I don't know who died and made the Democrats kings. They're the ones stomping around at their No Kings rallies, claiming that Trump is some, fascist dictator. Meanwhile, the majority of the country voted him in. He won every single swing state. He won the electoral and popular votes. So the party that constantly decries the end of democracy at the hands of Republicans are the ones throwing the democratic process out the window because they didn't like the outcome. That's what they do. They throw tantrums when they don't get what they want. And they will even bully those who disagree with them, as seen earlier on The View. Stephen A. Smith slammed Senator Mark Warner's comments, and he doubled down when Sunny Hostin granted him the opportunity to walk back his words from her high horse. Watch this.
So you recently accused Senator Mark Kelly, a veteran, an astronaut, of crossing the line for participating in a video reminding troops that they can refuse to follow illegal orders. Okay. Let's see some of what you said, my friend.
Sure. You know better, Senator Kelly. You know better. How dare you do that? You could go to the House. You can draw up paperwork. You can try to start articles of impeachment if you think there's something illegal. I mean, damn, it ain't like y'all haven't done it before. True. You impeached the man twice. Where'd that get you? Got his behind back in the White House. Had you left him alone since 2020, maybe he wouldn't be back. You don't tell military men and women to ignore an order from the commander-in-chief. You don't do that.
Caffeine's a bitch, you know?
Now, let me just remind you that Pete Hegseth said in 2016, I do think there have to be consequences for abject war crimes. If you're doing something that is just completely unlawful and ruthless, then there is a consequence for that. That's why the military said it won't follow unlawful orders from their commander-in-chief. Okay. Now, given the fact that the secretary himself said that, I'd love to give you the opportunity to perhaps change your position on what you said.
I'm not changing a thing.
Okay.
I didn't stutter when I said it.
You want to stay loud and wrong?
Well, you could call it loud and wrong all you want to. You're entitled to your opinion. I'm entitled to mine.
So pretentious. I mean, it is just so disgusting. And this reminds me of the Sydney Sweeney interview with GQ. And she's like, do you want to take this opportunity? I'm allowing you. I'm giving you a platform. Do you want to take this opportunity to denounce white supremacy? And then Sydney Sweeney looks back at, no. Stephen A. Smith, same thing. No, I'm not going to take back a thing. God bless Stephen A. Smith for sitting at that table and just shutting these ladies down left and right. In that same round table, Joy Reid was even like, Trump is using words we don't use anymore, referring to him calling Tim Walz retarded. And, he's calling women piggy. He's falling asleep in meetings. And the meeting, by the way, that Joy Behar was referring to is the one where Trump eviscerated the media. He was alive and well. He was making jokes in the Oval Office, or not in the Oval Office, in that cabinet meeting. And unlike Biden, who actually fell asleep multiple times, Joy did not seem to care. But Stephen A. made a great point on The View today that 77 million people voted for him. They don't care that Trump called a reporter piggy. They don't care that Tim Walz was called retarded. They don't care about any of that. Did you see the video, by the way, of Tim Walz saying like people are driving by his house screaming retard at him? He's like, this is horrible. Like, he's like, you know what's next? Like this violent rhetoric. Like now it's gonna turn to like acts of violence or whatever. Anyway, you know, Trump treated the media like doo-doo the first time around. He did. People love that about Trump. People voted for him again because they liked it.